Hey, welcome back to Reconnect. I'm your host Kei. Now that DMZ has been out for 2 weeks, it is time to review it. I wanted to give it enough time so I could experience the whole game and not jump to conclusions like many others had did without first getting their hands on or even knowing how to play the game. I think it's very important when you have a voice and/or followers that you know what you're talking about and being honest when you don't know what you're talking about. That being said, I am an indie game dev, but I also do understand game engine, so I might get a little technical during this review. And I also want to get into why we haven't seen most of the features that were either leaked or showed off in previous builds of Warzone 2.0 and DMZ. So the first thing I would like to talk about is loot. Loot should have more purpose, whether it be wrenches, bandages, aspirin, drills, tea, even alcohol, and many other miscellaneous things. I think they should add the crafting mechanic that was showed off in the campaign during the alone mission. For example, imagine you get bandages, you end up getting aspirin, and you could create yourself a quick fix kit for auto regeneration. Maybe you can get bandages, aspirin, and a stem and create yourself a weaker self revive where it takes longer to do your self revive. And or maybe you can mix something else with the self revive and it boosts your self revive to make that self revive quicker. I think crafting would be essential to make DMZ stand out from other extraction shooters, especially in game crafting, which then give more personality to the loot that you find and it give you more of a reason to bring that loot out when we do have a stash system. There's another feature that was showed off in a previous build of Warzone 2.0, and that was lootable attachments. So this image right here was something that was taken at COD Next during the reveal of Warzone 2.0, and this is what it says when you open up the buy station. Information: spend cash to buy attachments to upgrade your weapons. Any attachment looted in world can be equipped for free. Keyword there is free. So that means you could possibly bring your weapon and or buy a weapon from the buy station and buy attachments for that weapon. And each attachment could cost maybe $30 to probably $500, nobody knows. But this here shows that in a previous build or a future build that we'll be able to find attachments looted in world and attach them to our guns later on. And I love that game mechanic if they possibly bring that in. But I also think that maybe if you find a drill, a wrench, and other tools, you could build yourself a toolbox kit where you could put those attachments on without going to the buy station. That gives you an incentive to search for more of these smaller items that only cost $40, $50, $80 here and there, which don't really have a lot of value to it. But with a crafting system, there's value added to all miscellaneous items. And speaking of value, everything in this game is free.
What do you mean by that?
And what I mean by that, in most extraction shooters, the risk comes with how valuable the loot is and what you're willing to lose or not to lose. In an extraction shooter, I think everything should cost from backpacks to armor to attachments to weapons to tacticals to lethals to even field upgrades. All that matters. That creates a robust economy and give players a reason to bring the money out that they find during the raid. Because as of right now, the things that you loot only turn to XP or they are used towards the cooldown system for your insurance. Now, this is good for a casual type of mode, and that was a mistake that Battlefield 2042 Hazard Zone made. You need enough loot, you need enough personality to that loot, and especially you need enough personality to each and every weapon. Being able to bring in what weapon you want when you want to, without having to go grind for that weapon, takes away so much of the personality from an extraction shooter. Which is why I'm glad for the insurance system that they have in DMZ, even though I do think the cooldown is a little too quick. And all the other exploits just makes it where the cooldown really don't matter sometimes. So I think a marketplace will bring so much more personality to all of it, especially the weapons. But my biggest concern is that everyone who is coming in who have never played in extraction mode, they would just assume that the game is just becoming harder and that Infinity Ward is trying to make the game harder on purpose. But in fact, they probably had these plans to make the game more and more complex. But due to stability issues, they couldn't just add all this in at once. So instead, they gave us a really basic version of what DMZ was supposed to be, which many other games do. This is nothing new. I know many games built from 2014 all the way up until now, especially if it's multiplayer made on the new engines, they will have many stability issues. They will have to upgrade over time. Right now, there is no multiplayer game that you could find that will be complete with all the mechanics and stability simply because there's too many moving parts. So them making DMZ much more simple is actually a good thing right now due to the crashes. Because I couldn't imagine grinding for hours just to get a lot of money to be able to save up for a certain item for an objective that I need to complete, just to have the game crash on me in the middle of that objective. And not only do I lose out on all the money I spent for that objective, but I also lose out on the progression in that objective. And that could be a really, really huge issue when it comes to an extraction shooter. Call of Duty is expected to have more crashes simply due to the sheer complexity within the engines and coding, and especially due to the massive player base on their servers. No other extraction shooter have had this many players, I can guarantee you that. So my thing is, I would just say be patient, just like we was with Warzone 1, and that over time a lot of these things may be added. And some of the things we talk about here, for sure take with a grain of salt, because they can add these things in and or scrap them all together as they find new ways to make DMZ itself very unique from other extraction shooters. And I'm completely fine with that. But yeah, speaking about that crashing, I think the first thing they should implement is a reconnect feature that cannot be abused. Reconnect features can simply be abused way too much. That being, maybe you have some really good loot, you're in the middle of a fight, you don't want to lose it, so you just unplug your internet. The server will read it as a disconnect issue, and not only do you escape that fight, but you're still given your loot. As we have seen so far, people are not shy to using exploits, which I myself, I'm just not into it. I like to experience raw gameplay, but that's just a me thing. But I surely think that a reconnect feature is needed. And just in case there are many cheaters that pop up in the future, we don't know, they should automatically add a cheater's insurance. Just in case you get killed by a cheater, you still receive that loot back that you lost, especially rare and valuable loot. Now, beyond that, let's talk about bots. Now, I have no problem with how strong the bots are. I just think it's a playstyle issue. I'm sure you could play certain game modes really fast, but there's certain game modes you just shouldn't play fast, especially when you don't have a team. In every extraction shooter that I have known to exist, if you play fast,
Be prepared to die.
but since this is Call of Duty, most people are related to Warzone and will automatically try to play it fast. And when they die, it's easier to blame the bots and or not having a solo mode, which we would get into in a little bit. But I think bots are fine. Sometimes I do think there's an inconsistent detection distance when it comes to the spotter scope. I think they should dial back the basic view distance so it's easier to get around the bots. Now, if you hear that the enemy is on high alert, then that means they basically have obtained the perk high alert. So they will see you or notice you in the area. So this is why you don't make so much trouble within the DMZ. If another player is causing trouble in an area, that area itself will become hot, which I tell people to just think about it like Grand Theft Auto, whether you have 3 stars, 6 stars. Instead of it being a personal situation, the 3 stars or the 6 stars apply to the area where the bots are located. So I would say be paying attention to what the Overwatch is talking about, and also the subtitles when you're around the bots, which are little indicators on how to maneuver around the bots themselves. And if you're a type of person where you're like, oh, I just want to be able to play fast no matter what, then you can do that. It's just more risky. I also play fast at times, which I'm just at more risk, but at the same time, I just try to be more tactical and smart about the plays that I make. The bots will hurt you. Extraction shooters are made to be tough. That's the risk in it. There's no extraction shooter that you will play where it won't be as hard. Now, speaking of hard, I keep hearing people say there should be a solo mode. Now, when it comes to solo, a solo mode is fine, but remember, most people are used to battle royale, so when they say solo, they're really thinking in the terms of a battle royale. Within an extraction shooter, solo mode means that you're going in solo and not necessarily playing a solo game mode. So if you was playing Psycho Frontier, you can go in solo, but remember, you could probably run into a 4-man team, a 5-man team, a 10-man team. But with Call of Duty, they had just pulled it back just a little bit where the max size is around 6 players. So those players themselves can't betray you. And that's the only reason they did it. But realistically, when you're in an extraction shooter, friendly fire is a thing, betrayal is a thing. But if they was to add a solo feature, it still would be the same where you would have many people running around, just other people joining. So you may start off solo, but you run into somebody you want them to join on your team. I think that it still would be the same. Most people just want to burn through the bots and just shoot through the bots. But if they was to think about this in a campaign sense, then it would be exactly like that, just without a checkpoint feature. So if you're playing campaign and there was no checkpoint, that is basically what DMZ is, with other players on the map. Solo is meant to be hard and is meant to be a challenge. Solo is not something I would recommend as a playstyle. It is something that I find challenging and I find fun to do, but it is not recommended. All in all, remember DMZ is a sandbox mode. Sandbox meaning anything can happen. So even if you're solo, anything can happen. Which is why I think they should add colors to the name of POIs. Inside of Psycho Frontier, under the POI names, you will have a highly dangerous area, a moderately dangerous area, extremely dangerous area, where you know where the bots are scaled to. But as of right now, it's hard to tell how strong other POIs are without first going there yourself and being killed by a bunch of bots who are cracked out of their mind. They can beam you, but most times I've seen people just standing out in the open and they get beamed. When it comes to the train cart situation, I have been shot through the train cart, but it's always around Akdar Village when I get shot in a train cart, which is a highly dangerous area. So I would just avoid being on a train when you're passing that area or get behind cover within the train. Now, when it comes to DMZ, I do think skill-based matchmaking should be a thing within this game mode, especially. And that could be a way they could scale the bots and the players all together. So far, it has felt like I've been skill based versus from when I first played, or when I lose a lot, I get easier lobbies. So it seemed like it's a little skill based in there already. So if you start getting harder lobbies, be proud. That means you're just cracked out of your damn mind, which is a good thing. And something that I would like to talk about is the map. I find that it's too much UI on the screen already. I feel the compass is good. We already have a map button. This isn't Warzone. I feel there's no need for all that on the screen. It just pulls me out of the immersion a lot. So I would really love for them to change that and make the UI more plain, especially with no minimap. But we could keep the compass up there. There's another leak that had talked about a bazaar. The bazaar being something more akin to Call of Duty World War II HQ, which was just a central area where other players can come together, open up different loot crates, also being a little social, having a little market and different things like that. I think this needs that. Now, it can be something implemented as an in-game thing. So when you're in Al Mazrah, maybe there's a spot where you go where nobody can shoot each other. Nobody can kill each other. You cannot die in a spot, but you simply go there to buy different weapons, to buy different things, and bring them outside of your raid back to your personal stash where you get to stockpile many different things. And the reason why I say in game, it'll simply make it different from any other extraction shooter. So just imagine you bring some of the money in from your personal stash or your hideout. Maybe it's about $20,000. You drop in a DMZ, you survive long enough to get to that marketplace. You buy some really good stuff, but yet and still you have to be able to extract with it. Now, with that being said, if it is in game, if you leave that market area, that means somebody could be camping the market area. I think that you should have an immunity, at least for a bit, and also not being able to shoot other people. But at the same time, in the market area, maybe you have enough money to call in an extra extraction. And that extraction appears on a map only for you and no other player. And it's a quick extract. It's not something you have to really wait around. So by the time you get to it, maybe it's a balloon system that automatically takes you out. Or maybe it's something from the old Spec Ops or from PUBG where a plane just come and swoop you up and you just take off. That's something I think would be very valuable. And it save a lot of memory from a game developer perspective, I think. So yeah, this is just a few things that I think would make the game a hell of a lot better. But this is just from the perspective from not only a game developer, but at the same time, someone who love extraction shooters. And I know many people will talk about EFT. I do not play Escape from Tarkov. I like Psycho Frontier more. It's more geared to what I like about extraction shooters. And that's pretty much it. And something I agree with Dr. Lupo on is that EFT AI or Escape from Tarkov are not as complex and it feels a lot shittier to die to them. But right now I do consider DMZ slightly more hardcore in some areas, such as backpacks and armor. If you lose a backpack or armor, say in other extraction shooters, you can just go back to your stash and just put another one on. But in here, if you lose a backpack and or armor, you have to go all the way back in just to do all this over again, to grind all this out again. So I think DMZ could be a little bit more stressful in that area, but honestly, I don't mind it. I would love a stash system, as I said earlier, where I could stash my backpacks and other different things like that. But maybe I can only stash 3 backpacks and 3 armor vests, and that's the limit. But every other thing I can, oh, and I can stash like 3 self revives and 3 kill streaks, and every other thing is just unlimited, or until your stash become full. Or maybe if they implement a stash weight system, then maybe there's too much weight within your stash. Um, I don't know. I still think it should be just a space thing, a capacity thing, and you should be able to upgrade that over time. And I think that should be something you can lose other than having to wipe it, which is the size of your stash system. Maybe you bring out a special MVP card that gives you more slot space. And if you die 3 times with the MVP card, you lose the MVP card. So therefore, those extra slots then disappear. I think DMZ as a foundation is really, really good. And implementing anything with the base that they have is already going to be a winner if done right. If DMZ stays as simple as it is now, then I think it will surely start losing players. But as a foundation, they already have something really special. Whether it comes from missions, they have a lot of loot, like a lot of miscellaneous things. Um, the GPU thing is already really awesome. To be having to find certain items that is really rare is already awesome. So DMZ as an extraction is already really good. It's just these little implementations will make it over the top and really, really good in the long run. And the replayability will be off the charts because already you don't know what could happen within just one round of DMZ. But that here is my review, the things I would like to see changed. If I'm missing something, if I have not talked about something, I'm sure I will cover it in other videos. But yeah, I'm going to continue to do more solos. I'm going to try to implement more team-based things so I can show off a tactical team play style, which I think would be good. I'm also going to implement more run and gun styles so people can also see how to play run and gun when you're playing DMZ. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, show love by hitting the like button and subscribing for more content like this. Hit that notification bell. Also, comment down below any thoughts, questions, or feedback, especially anything pertaining to this review. I would love to know the things you would like to see change. And remember, this is all my opinion, and everyone could have a different opinion, which is completely fine. I invite different opinions. That's how I become better as a person, rather than recycling information within my own circle. So yeah, I really appreciate that. And thank you for watching. Again, I'm your host, Kei, and I will see you in the exclusion zone. Bye.